The election campaign that will determine Scotland's future is now well underway. There are just over 4 weeks to go until people in Scotland cast their votes on May the 6th. In normal times, I and my SNP colleagues will be trying to meet as many people as possible to take our message of hope and optimism right across the country. These are, of course, not normal times, but the most serious of times. So normal campaigning is not possible, but that doesn't mean we can't have a vibrant debate over the kind of Scotland we all want to live in. Over the past year, the SNP in government has been focused on one overriding goal: keeping our country safe. Under the leadership of Nicola Sturgeon, we've worked every day to tackle the pandemic. Given the scale of this challenge, we won't have got everything right. But I don't think anyone can question the commitment of the SNP team, but most importantly, the First Minister, who has taken the tough decisions and personally explained and taken responsibility for them at hundreds of daily briefings right throughout the pandemic. So in this election, we're asking you to re-elect Nicola Sturgeon as First Minister and the SNP as the Scottish Government. These times call for experienced leadership and serious government. And that is what the people of Scotland expect and deserve. And that is what the SNP will deliver if we are re-elected on May the 6th. So in this election, the SNP's offer is this: experienced leadership and serious government to lead Scotland through the pandemic and into recovery. And when the crisis is over, and only then, we must have the right to decide whether to become an independent country and take our future into our own hands. Thanks to the incredible efforts and sacrifices of everyone in Scotland, and due to the magnificent success of the vaccine rollout, we know better times lie ahead. As you can tell, like many others, I'm particularly looking forward to the barbers reopening. But we know things can't go back to how they were pre-pandemic. We want to build a fairer recovery. The question then is this: who should decide the kind of country we will be after the pandemic? Should it be the people of Scotland or politicians at Westminster? I believe Scotland's future should be in Scotland's hands. In this election, we are leaving the political game playing and tactical ploys to the other parties. The situation facing our country is far too serious for that. And it is only the SNP which is serious about government and putting into practice the policies that will improve people's lives. In this election, a majority for the SNP, with Nicola Sturgeon as First Minister, will mean we can get things done. In government, it's been my responsibility to bring down crime and make Scotland a safer place to live. There are now more than 1,000 additional police officers in Scotland than when we came to office. Crime, including violent crime, has fallen over the last decade with the SNP in government. Glasgow was once seen as one of the most violent cities in Europe. The SNP-led Scottish Government has funded a public health approach to tackling violence, which has seen violent crime reduced by almost 40% since 2008. In fact, back in 2008, around 1 in 5 adults experienced a crime. Now that figure is down to 1 in 8. But we know there is more to do. In government, the SNP has put victims' rights at the heart of the criminal justice system. We've invested over £75 million in victim support over the last 5 years. We set up the Victims Task Force that I co-chair to improve support, advice and information for victims of crime. We will continue to support its work over the next Parliament, and we will take further action to help the victims of crime. From our work on the task force and listening directly to the views and experiences of victims, I can announce we will pass a new law to appoint a Victims Commissioner for Scotland. The Commissioner will provide an independent voice to victims and witnesses and review the provisions of victim services. Where necessary, they will provide challenge to the government and those right across the justice system if there are steps we need to take to improve a victim's justice journey. And we will develop a new funding regime for victim support organisations and introduce a justice-specific knowledge and skills framework that will be trauma-informed in its practice. We will also put forward changes to the justice system itself to help victims. Our justice system has many, many strengths, but we should always be prepared to question whether it can be further improved. In 2019, we published Scotland's jury research, the most comprehensive study of juries and juror behaviour ever undertaken in the UK. Scotland has a unique system with 3 verdicts: guilty, not guilty, and not proven. The research made it clear that the not proven verdict can cause confusion for many jurors. We have heard from both victims of crime and those accused of crime that a not proven verdict causes significant distress. In recognition of the strong case that has been made for its abolition, we will consult on the removal of the not proven verdict. We will work with all parties and with relevant stakeholders to take forward reform of Scotland's justice system. The SNP government is on your side and on the side of our communities. We will use all of our experience to do whatever we can to keep Scotland safe and continue to cut crime and help victims. We also know how difficult involvement in the justice system can be for anyone, but particularly difficult for children. In everything we do, we must respect the rights and well-being of children and young people. At present, young people caught up in the justice system may have to go through multiple different services in multiple locations. That simply isn't right. So if re-elected, I pledge that the SNP government will reform how children and young people are treated. Scandinavian countries have introduced a model that provides a welcoming and safe environment for children who have to engage in the justice system. All the care and support a child and their family needs is delivered under one roof at a place called the Barnahouse, the Children's House. In Scotland, we will introduce the Bairns House. These centres will operate on the principle that the needs of children in criminal cases are totally different from adults in the same situation. The child will be the centre of their work, and we will ensure that every child victim or witness will have access to a Bairns House by 2025. These proposals are part of the most ambitious policy programme any party has put before the people of Scotland in a Scottish Parliament election. The biggest NHS pay increase in the history of devolution, to show our appreciation for the heroic work of health workers over the past year. A cancer treatment recovery plan, a national care service, 100,000 affordable homes supporting 14,000 jobs a year. A laptop, Chromebook or tablet for every school pupil, so no child misses out on learning. A doubling of the Scottish Child Payment to £20 a week per child for low-income families. A £275 million fund to regenerate and revitalise town centres and local neighbourhoods. A rural entrepreneur fund and a women's business centre to help the next generation of entrepreneurs. Over the coming weeks of the campaign, the SNP will continue to roll out groundbreaking policy platform. We will set out how we will tackle the climate emergency, expand free childcare and deliver free school meals and breakfast for all primary pupils. These measures will offer practical help to people in their daily lives, but they also demonstrate the kind of country we are building. One based on compassion and fairness, which has a laser focus on the priorities of the people of Scotland. Those values will shape our recovery plan for Scotland. The pandemic has affected everyone in Scotland, but it hasn't affected everyone equally. The inequalities in our society have been laid bare like never before. So a recovery from COVID can't be a recovery just to the way things were before. The scandal of child poverty has to come to an end. That's why we introduce the Scottish Child Payment, which has been described as a game changer in the fight against child poverty. It's why we will double the payment in the next Parliament if re-elected to government. It shows the difference a measure of self-government can make to improving people's lives. And it demonstrates why we need all the decisions about Scotland's social security system to be made in Scotland, not by the likes of Boris Johnson and Tory Westminster governments that people here in Scotland didn't vote for. From the baby box to the Scottish Child Payment to free university education, the SNP in government is helping families, children and young people. Last month, the Scottish Parliament unanimously passed landmark legislation to incorporate the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child into domestic law. It was an exceptionally proud moment, not just for our Parliament, but for our entire country. It's one of the reasons we will introduce policies like the Bairns House I spoke about just a moment ago. We had hoped the UK government would follow our lead, but not only have they refused to do so, they are now threatening to go to court to strike down our new law and overturn the unanimous vote of the Scottish Parliament. They are doing so because they say this bill could constrain the powers of the UK government over Scotland. They believe Westminster's right to tell Scotland what to do should come before the rights of children. That tells you why it is so important that Scotland's future should be in Scotland's hands. Because Westminster is taking Scotland in the wrong direction. Boris Johnson's priorities are not Scotland's priorities. Westminster will hold our recovery back. Our youth guarantee will create jobs for young people, but Westminster's hard Brexit will cost jobs. We are taking action to lift children out of poverty, but the Tories' benefit cuts are plunging more families into poverty. We are investing in the National Health Service, but we know Westminster can't be trusted to protect it. We are investing in our children's future, but Boris Johnson is using Scottish taxpayers' money to pay for a huge increase in nuclear warheads. So Scotland's recovery needs to be made in Scotland, focused on Scotland's priorities, not Westminster's. That's why once the COVID crisis is over, we believe people in Scotland must have the right to decide their own future and whether they wish to become an independent country. Independence is not a distraction from recovery. It is essential for the long-term recovery people in Scotland deserve and need, because it will equip our country and our Parliament with the powers to build the better Scotland we know is possible. In an independent Scotland, the decisions about our future will be decided by the people who live here, not by Westminster. So other parties in this election, like Labour, who say we shouldn't have the right to determine our own future, well, they've made a choice. In the face of a Tory government at Westminster that is doing real harm to Scotland, they're just shrugging their shoulders. They've decided Westminster should be allowed to determine Scotland's future. They are giving permission to Boris Johnson to continue taking Scotland in the wrong direction. That's not standing up for Scotland or recovery. It's letting people in Scotland down. The SNP will always stand up for the people of Scotland. We believe it is the people who live here who should be driving Scotland's recovery. So at this election, vote SNP for the experienced, committed leadership of Nicola Sturgeon to guide Scotland through the pandemic. Vote SNP for a government of bold, progressive policies to kickstart recovery and build a fairer society. Vote SNP for the right to decide your future on May the 6th to build a better Scotland.